And the Winx are back on show. The famous racing colors of the mighty mare Winx make a return to Sydney racing when Unico contests the final 2-year racing season. Wait a minute. Who put this on my script? This is a Winx Club news update, not a Winx racing horse update. Somebody get my agent. Oh, wait. That is me. My agent is myself. All right. Fair.
Hey there, welcome to the WinxForever podcast. I'm Lola, creator, host, and lifelong Winx fan. I'm taking a deep dive into the very cool universe of Winx Club. So whether you've been a Winx fan since 2004 like myself, or you vaguely remember the show from your childhood, or you're being introduced to it for the first time, welcome. This is the WinxForever podcast.
So if you don't know, there's a famous racing horse named Winx, and whenever I get my little updates, my news updates regarding the keyword Winx, sometimes I get a few articles here and there centered around the racehorse and his winnings, and it's actually pretty funny that Google can't distinguish between the two. And although an entire episode about the racehorse Winx would be hilarious, this episode is all about the latest Winx Club news, which there's a lot to cover that's happened in the past 6 months. So let's get into it. In June, the fandom was in a tizzy after a prototype image leaked of the new Italian fashion dolls with potential season 9 artwork on the promotional graphic appeared. Last week, we got news that the dolls are now finalized with leaked images of the final look of the dolls, which include what looks like a new civilian outfit, wing design, and face designs. The dolls also feature articulated joints for better variety of range of motion, and according to the licensing magazine article, the 3 new line of dolls, which Rocco Giocatolli is calling the Magic Reveal dolls, Bling the Wings dolls, and a brand new fashion doll collection, is targeted to a young 3 to 6-year-old demographic. It's no secret that Rainbow's toy designs have been a major director of the art and storylines of previous Winx seasons. For example, sources say that Mattel designers got to name the Pixies while the Pixie Magic doll line was in production, which was how they were named in season 2 of the series. It'll be interesting to see if these new Rocco Giocatolli dolls are any indication as to what season 9 will entail, as it was leaked in late 2020 that season 9 will feature 52 13-minute episodes as opposed to the 26-minute episodes in previous seasons. The question remains of whether Rainbow will continue to skew the demographics of their cartoons to much younger audiences as they began doing after the deal with Nickelodeon left our favorite fairies being aired on Nickelodeon's preschool channel, Nick Jr. in 2015.
You're listening to the WinxForever podcast.
An article with Winx creator Iginio Straffi was released on the popular Vox Media website Polygon on June 7th, titled "No One Believed in Winx Club Except Its Creator," with the subheadline reading Iginio Straffi on putting up a fight for his magical girl show. The interview with the Italian entertainment innovator highlights many parts of Rainbow's timeline, from Iginio's rise to fame with our favorite fairy show in the early 2000s after citing the need for more girl power in cartoons, to his future plans for the Winx Club franchise. Iginio mentions his company's victorious lawsuit with Disney over the similarities between his fairy show Winx Club and Disney's Witch series, expressing that he believed the original Disney series failed after only 2 seasons because of their attempt to target a gender-neutral audience, which, despite Winx Club being widely popular with both male, female, and non-binary audiences across the world, Iginio refuses to acknowledge this about his own franchise. The article also includes Iginio's opinions and disappointments with how Rainbow has never truly been able to break into American audiences with Winx Club. The article reads, "But even a partnership with Nickelodeon didn't boost the show to the same levels in America. To be honest, until now, I am not happy with what we reached in the US, Iginio says. We've been successful and famous, but not as much as Europe. So there must be something that we have not done, something we should have done better. Iginio went on to basically say he believes that kids are not smart enough to retain information for the long-form storytelling that is found in the first several seasons of Winx Club, and that breaking up the show into once-a-week airings was ultimately the reason for Winx's failure to penetrate the American audiences. He says in the article, maybe for a kid audience, they can't really remember what happened for a week and really appreciate the continued story. This is downright insulting to kids. This is why I don't believe Rainbow has what it takes to ever truly break into American audience with this mindset. I mean, the most popular and well-produced and well-written shows for kids in America don't underestimate the intelligence of kids and instead challenges them to think higher and provides a well-told story. Look at shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beast, Steven Universe, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Adventure Time, and so many other examples of well-written, long-form stories that didn't insult the intelligence of its viewers, but presented a new way of in-depth storytelling and world building and character development. All the qualities of seasons 1 through 4 of Winx Club. Honestly, this comment Iginio makes is very telling and honestly helps me understand a lot of what has happened to the magic of Winx Club. When Rainbow began underestimating their audience is when Winx Club started to dumb down the stories of the character development, and the individuality that made me fall in love with this franchise to begin with was lost. But that's just my opinion. And moving on. As for the Netflix live adaptation of Winx Club, Iginio speaks of how he was not happy with how Netflix handled some of the creative aspects of the first season of Fate, the Winx Saga, sharing that Rainbow was not as involved as Straffi would have liked to have been because the show was filmed in Ireland. As stated in the article, Rainbow discussed casting and potential directors, but left a lot of the bigger decisions up to Netflix, with mixed results. Straffi had some doubts about Ireland, which he called nice but a bit too rainy, and ultimately was very pleased with how Althea College and the surrounding settings ended up looking in the show. But he did have one issue with the show. Quote, the costumes could have been better, he says. They will be better in the second season. As for the show's controversial casting, white actors played by two characters whose animated design had been based on Lucy Liu and Jennifer Lopez, Straffi says that he can't say much about it, but that he anticipated the fans' negative reaction. Overall, though, he says his creation come to life as a live-action drama was surreal. He hopes the Netflix show is just the beginning. Man, that's pretty easy to say after the fact, Iginio, but I digress. It's so funny to me that he refuses to address any of the whitewashing in Fate, or even in the previous Winx cartoon seasons. I believe it's because he knows the whitewashing didn't start with Fate, and he's honestly probably not ready to own up to his poor decisions. The article wraps up with Iginio sharing his wishes for the future of the fairy franchise, citing that he wants a theatrical movie, wants to explore the origin of the tricks, and he wants the show to be as big in America as it is in Europe, whether that's through the animated series or the live action one. All pretty interesting goals for the creator and CEO of Winx. Lofty, potentially, but interesting nonetheless. I'm curious to see how Rainbow will approach some of these goals of Iginio's for Winx Club, namely being the potential Trick spinoff series. I hope it's almost a reboot and doesn't expound upon the awful out-of-character backstory they decided to give Icy in season 8. During the Cartoon Digital 2021 online conference in the end of May, Rainbow's SVP of Content and Acquisition, Christina Bozelli, spoke on how, quote, building a strong digital presence is essential, unquote, while also sharing what she referred to as the virtuous circle of Winx Club. During the panel, Bozelli highlighted the milestones that Winx Club has had since its first aired in 2004 and continued to discuss the franchise's digital presence, citing their YouTube, which started in 2012, their Facebook, which started in 2011, and their Instagram, which started in 2015. In an article from Senoropa, they share that Bozelli argues Winx Club's strong digital presence, quote, has helped develop a solid fan base of viewers who were children back in the early 2000s and are now young adult women attracted to a sort of girlhood nostalgia, unquote. They went on to say that towards the end of her presentation, Bozelli explained the foundations of the so-called virtuous circle of Winx Club, achieved by alternating between new animated and live-action content, and then boosted by social media and promotional coverage. This whole presentation for me seemed to be Rainbow basically patting themselves on the back for a thriving online community that has been entirely fostered by fans and not Rainbow. The accompanying graphic in the presentation that showed this so-called virtuous circle of Winx Club is honestly lackluster and just a circle with 3 arrows reading social media, consumer product, and content season 9. Honestly, this image is not only confusing, but also, as a digital marketer myself, is rather unimpressive, much like the competence of the Rainbow marketing team. Their social media is constantly missing the mark by reusing memes just weeks apart from each other, resharing content from either problematic accounts or just accounts that don't really make sense in general, and definitely not capitalizing on the franchise's immensely creative fan base. Rainbow's consumer product, quote unquote, besides the doll lines they have identified as targeted for 3 to 6-year-olds, are non-existent for the older adult fans that they have identified in this presentation. They mentioned the Fate, the Winx Saga collab with the clothing company, Don't Call Me Jennifer, and no doubt they probably think that this collab, along with the most recent and honestly not that great Winx and Bershka top collab, are top tier. And it's wild to me that a successful company like Rainbow, who were such innovators for their time in girls' cartoons in the early 2000s, have fallen so far behind the curve for excellence in all these aspects, but especially marketing. The fact that they aren't looking to their competitors such as Bratz or Barbie or even Avatar: The Last Airbender and picking up a few tricks and tips from them is, to me, absolutely wild. In this industry and just in marketing in general, you have to keep up with what your competitors are doing, paying attention to current trends and what's popular with your target demo, while also staying ahead of the curve. And I just don't think that Rainbow has the humility to do that. And I believe that it's become detrimental to their brand. Despite Rainbow announcing the launch of their global licensing strategy for their legacy Winx Club brand, I think something major has to change in Rainbow's marketing strategy to become a serious player in the market in 2021 and beyond. Honestly, they need to return to their roots, return the magic back to this franchise, the magic that fans have always found in Winx Club, and honestly, the magic that Rainbow has long forgotten. Hey there, thanks so much for listening. If you're enjoying this episode of the WinxForever podcast, consider following us on social media at WinxForeverPodcast. And finally, Fate the Winx Saga Season 2 has begun production in Ireland. Netflix released an official behind-the-scenes video that featured clips of the cast arriving in Dublin on set and preparing for their first read-through of Episode 1, along with a carousel image of the whole cast. Missing from the cast image is obviously Eva Best, whose character died in the last minutes of Season 1, but more notably missing from the lineup was actor Jacob Dedman, who plays Winx Suite member Tara's brother and also Misa's boyfriend, Sam. He was one of my absolute favorite parts of Season 1, so I really hope that he's not written out of Season 2. The video also revealed 3 new characters to the Fate universe. Winx fans everywhere rejoiced when we saw a clip of the new character Flora, who is played by actress Paulina Chavez. Paulina is most notably known for her role as Ashley Garcia in Netflix original sitcom The Expanding Universe of Ashley Garcia, where she plays a 15-year-old robotics engineer and rocket scientist who gets the chance to work for NASA and moves across the country to live with her uncle, who is a pro football player turned high school football coach. Interesting. The next interesting character introduced but not tagged anywhere, interesting enough, on social media, is the Irish actor Iana Hardwick, who plays the character Sebastian. This new character introduction could be a reference to the World of Winx Season 2 character Sebastian. Just the fact that he was pictured in the big cast photo before the table read is telling of whether or not he's going to be a major role in Season 2. Ian is known for roles in suspense and horror projects such as Jesse Eisenberg film Vivarium, as well as the thriller Irish series Smother. Character Gray, we got a glimpse of in the behind the scenes video, is the character we know the least about, probably. Actor Brandon Grace does not have any acting credits to his name as of yet, making him a newcomer to the scene. So I'm very excited to see his acting come into action in Season 2. Probably the most shocking piece of news and encouraging piece of news we've gotten from Season 2, besides the new characters and introduction of our favorite fairy Flora, following the Winx creator Iginio Straffi's comments made about the fashion in Fate Season 2, saying the fashion could have been better, and it will be in Season 2. Catherine Adair confirmed on her Instagram stories that she will not be designing for Season 2 of Fate the Winx Saga. The former Fate costume designer, most notably known for costuming the show Desperate Housewives, was harshly criticized by Winx fans for addressing the actresses portraying our favorite fairies like Desperate Housewives when they were meant to be trendy, fashion-forward teenagers. I am honestly curious to see how this will affect characters' style and outfits in Season 2, namely the best looks of Season 1 being Beatrix and Farrah Dowling's outfits. Lots and lots to look forward to and to be excited about the upcoming Fate Season 2, among other things in the franchise. And that's all I have for this Winx Forever news update. What are you most looking forward to out of these news items? You can leave me a 30-second to 1-minute voice message, and you might be featured on the next episode of the Winx Forever podcast. All you got to do is go to speakpipe.com/WinxForeverPodcast. The link will also be below. Also, be sure to follow Winx Forever Podcast on Instagram. I'm almost to 900 followers, and once I hit it, we will play Season 3 trivia of Winx Club Trivia on my Instagram stories, and you can win exclusive fairy form trophies from the Winx Forever Podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey there, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Winx Forever Podcast, consider giving us a follow on your preferred streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes drop. The theme for the Winx Forever Podcast is the song She Makes Magic by Big Wild.